I get asked a lot what's an easy way for people who maybe don't like basketball or are more casual fans of basketball to consume basketball, and it is that time of year when my usual answer will be March Madness. This is the college basketball NCAA tournament. For people who don't know, there's a single game elimination, so win or go home. It's a tournament where some of the smallest schools in the country who have somehow qualified for the tournament get the chance to shoot at some of the biggest schools in the country of the United States to see who can lift the championship of being the best basketball team in the country. It's so exciting. There are so many games, so much to look into. I want to make sure that people in the UK are well equipped for how they can consume March Madness, for predictions and things like that. So I'm going to tell you more about that. I'm going to give you my bracket and my predictions for the tournament with no prior knowledge, really, just vibes. So come and have a brew with me. It's the Sport Tea. So let's start off with the key pieces of information then. Every single game of March Madness is being shown on Disney Plus, which I understand, these days having so many different subscriptions for different sports and different things is, a complete and utter head squabble, who knows. I was going to try and use a swear word, but I want to try not to swear too much in this video, at least not in the early part, because that's what YouTube ranks you down for, doesn't it? So yeah, it can be a bit of a minefield finding your different subscriptions and all these kinds of things, but for anyone who has Disney Plus for non-sporting things, funnily enough, March Madness is actually being shown on Disney Plus, so every single game of the tournament, as I say. And if you're not sure which game to pick, if you're like me, they basically do whip round coverage, which takes you to every present game as it's going on. It will make sure that you're in the right place at the right time. If there's a game that's going down to the wire and there's a few points in it, it will place you into that game. If there's a new game that started and the old game that's coming towards the end but is already a blowout and someone is already well in the lead, it will take you away from that one into the one that's just started to make sure you're across all the action. So I'm really excited that Disney Plus have got the rights this year. I'm lucky enough that I do have a Disney Plus subscription, so of course I understand it may not be for everyone, but also maybe there's a way, if you happen to have Amazon Fire Sticks and things, for you to still be able to consume all of that. Or VPNs. VPNs are another thing, which I'm sure if you go and find that information on the internet, you'll be able to find out how you can use your VPN to watch March Madness for free. But it is a good way for non-basketball fans or for casual basketball fans to get into basketball, because it's more sort of fast-paced than the NBA. It's not all reliant on athleticism. There are guys who come into this, it's literally college basketball, so it's like the sports that you'd have played at university, albeit with a way higher budget because of the way the college system works in the United States, where most of the money comes from donors, and there's players who now get what's called NIL money, which is basically like they own their own image rights, because these guys are athletes, and they're basically athletes from the minute they come out of high school, unless, you're LeBron James or someone of that caliber who you are an athlete the minute you are in high school, basically, and you'll go straight from high school into the NBA. But most guys do tend to go through the college system, play for some of the bigger schools in the country, and then go into the NBA draft from there. So it's dead exciting because you get to see some of the top prospects of who's going to go into the latest NBA draft, but you also get the chance to see some Cinderella stories. That's what they always call them in March Madness, which is basically akin to your FA Cup magic or your giant killings if you're in the UK and are a fan of football who's found yourself stumbling upon this video. There's a lot of these, by the way, and there may be slightly less these days because a thing has come in called the transfer portal, which basically does what it says on the tin. It allows people to or athletes to transfer from one school to another. So it tends to be the way. I don't know how much in practice, because I tend not to follow college basketball throughout the regular season, which you're going to see when we come on to show you my picks for my bracket, which as I'm recording this I have 45 minutes to submit. So we're getting going down close to the wire on the Sport Tea, but I wanted to make sure I brought you this on the first day of March Madness. But basically, guys can transfer from smaller schools to bigger schools, and I wonder how much that will impact the level of giant killings or Cinderella stories that we do see in March Madness this year. I'm hoping there will still be the odd one, because there's been some great stories down the years, and I'm sure as I go through the names I'll be able to point out a couple who've had nice Cinderella stories in the past at March Madness that I've been onto. But I guess we should probably get into my bracket. I feel like we've covered everything else. There's a few of the top sort of draft guys that are taking part in the tournament this year. So Cam Boozer is expected to go as the first overall pick in the draft this year. He will be playing for Duke University, which is based in North Carolina. Unfortunately, University of North Carolina Carolina prospect Caleb Wilson is out of the tournament. He's probably due to go in like the top 5 of the NBA draft, so hoping that doesn't harm his draft stock too much. A shame that we just don't get to see him, to be honest. But then there's Darren Peterson, who's expected to go second, sort of, universally. He will be playing, I forget which school he's from actually, but loads of these guys that are at the top end of the draft are taking part in the tournament, which is going to be great, and hopefully we'll see some of them be giant killed along the way, and we'll see some of these Cinderella stories, maybe guys who will, who weren't necessarily considered to be draft prospects before this, find their way into that realm. So we will lead ourselves on to my bracket. Not filled in yet, I'm literally going to fill this in live as we go through with you. How big shall I make myself? Let's leave myself about that big, and we'll flip over to this. So we mentioned Duke before, Cameron Boozer's Duke up against Siena in the first round, a 1-16 matchup. I would love to say I could see there being a Cinderella story right off the bat, but being completely honest with you, I don't see it in this one, so I'm going to go straight in with Duke there. Ohio State and TSU. As I say, I have no prior knowledge going into this. This is all just basically on vibes. It's an 8-9 matchup, so it should be a close one. I only know TCU because of Haley Van Lith, so I'm just going to go with Haley's school. She's not even a men's college basketball player, a women's former college basketball player, now plays in WNBA. But we've got St. John's versus Northern Iowa. I'm trying to think if I've heard of St. John's before or if I've seen games of St. John's before. I'm sure I have at some point along the way, but I'm going to go with a little Cinderella story here. Don't know, just felt it in my fingers, felt it in my bones. Kansas versus Cal Baptist, CBU. I'm going to go with the Kansas Jayhawks here. That feels like another big school. I'm going to tend to side with the big schools here. I'm not going to lie to you, although got another Cinderella story for you coming here. I'm going to go with South Florida to knock down Louisville in this matchup. Michigan State versus North Dakota. Unfortunately, I'm going to go chalk in that one, Michigan State. UCLA versus UCF. Kind of let you know by my t-shirt and by the Clippers jersey here today, but I am a UCLA fan. I am a Bruin because my cousin went to UCLA and I've been to see UCLA football games, things like that. So I'm just going to be a homer and back the team that I like there. UConn versus Furman. Unfortunately, UConn are just one of the best schools in the country. So well coached by Dan Hurley, assuming he's still in charge. I've not actually seen anything to the contrary. So we'll go with UConn in that one. We'll flip over to the south. Actually, we'll stick with the east. We'll do east and then west. So Florida versus Prairie View A&M. Prairie View feel like one of those really religious schools that comes in. I'm excited to see them play in this one, but unfortunately I'm going to go with Florida in this one. We've got Clemson versus Iowa. That's a tough one because I do know both of these schools. I'm going to go with Clemson, going against Caitlin Clark there with Iowa, so sorry to Caitlin if she is watching this. Vanderbilt versus McNeese. I'm going to go with Vanderbilt. I know Vandy to be a very good school. Nebraska versus Troy. I'm going to go with Nebraska. Quite a lot of these ones I may go chalk, sort of looking down the list. There's maybe one that I'll give you along the way. But North Carolina versus VCU. I used to be a really big fan of North Carolina because when I was at college, I was watching Cam Johnson and Kobe White. And that team of North Carolina, I think Nasir Little played for them as well. Watching them come out of college and really enjoyed that team. So do have a bit of a soft spot for North Carolina. We'll go with Illinois in the 3-14 matchup against Penn. There is a top prospect at Illinois. I think it may be Keaton Wagler, I want to say, who's coming out of Illinois, so it'll be interesting to watch him and them in the tournament. Here's the one where I'm going to go with the Cinderella story slightly. I mean, it's a 7-10 matchup, so hardly, but Texas A&M to knock off St. Mary's. I'm going to go with Houston versus Idaho. I'm going to go with Houston. Houston do have another top prospect in the draft. I don't know if that is Darren Peterson, maybe. I could be wrong on that. There's a couple of schools that I'll know the names of because they've got top prospects, but yeah, we'll see what happens there. We'll flip over to the West for now, and then I'll sort of make my way down as we go. These usually, by the way, are like completely blown up. Mine might even blow up literally within the next 45 minutes. So it's kind of the fun of it, is that you get to just be wrong and you get to vibe and you get to enjoy this part of the guessing game. And then if you get it right, I mean, I'm sure there's money in it. I'm on the official NCAA website here, so I don't know if that definitely is the case, but it feels like it should be the case. Arizona versus Long Island. I'm going to go with Arizona. Villanova versus Utah State. I'm going to go with Villanova. I'm going to go with Wisconsin over High Point. I'm going to go with Arkansas over Hawaii, although I'm excited to see Hawaii play in this tournament. That'll be good. BYU, I should say, over the Texas Longhorns. I'm going to go with AJ DeBonce's school. Got some friends that went to BYU, so I feel like I have to rep for them in that one. Gonzaga versus Kennesaw State. I'm going to go with Gonzaga. Missouri versus Miami. I'm unfortunately with Miami. I might be all chalk here, to be honest. And then Purdue versus Queens, North Carolina. I presume that'd be Queens, North Carolina. Versus Queens. I'm going to go with Purdue. I've gone with all the big schools there, really. Besides, I guess, BYU versus Texas, because the Longhorns are known for their football more so than anything. But yeah, BYU having that top prospect and the amount that I rate AJ Debonsa, I'm definitely going to go for them in that one. Michigan versus Howard. You know what? Fuck it, let's go vibes. I'm going to go with... No, in fact, I'm going to save it. I'm going to save my Cinderella story pick there. I'm going to go with Michigan in that one. Georgia versus St. Louis. I'm going to go with Georgia. Texas Tech versus Akron. That's going to be one where I go for a slightly Cinderella story. I'm going to go with Akron to make it through there. A little LeBron James, Steph Curry hometown thingy there with Akron, Ohio. Be interested to see that. Alabama and Hofstra. I'm going to go with Alabama. Tennessee versus Miami, I'm going to go with Tennessee. Virginia and Wright State, I'm going to go with Virginia. Kentucky and Santa Clara, I'd love to believe that Santa Clara can win that one, but I will go with Kentucky. And then here is my biggest Cinderella story of this. I'm going to go with Tennessee State to knock off Iowa State, because why the hell not? Moving into this second round matchup then on the East Coast, or the East side I should say, I'm going to go with Duke to knock off TSU. I'm unfortunately going to say that the Cinderella story for Northern Iowa ends at Kansas. I'm going to say that South Florida, Michigan State. I'm going to go with Michigan State. And then UCLA versus UConn. I'm going to say it. I'm going to be a homer again. I'm going to have UCLA going through because, again, why not? I get to pick this. I get to be wrong. That's the beauty of it. Florida versus Clemson. I'll go with Florida. Vanderbilt versus Nebraska. I'll go with Vanderbilt. North Carolina versus Illinois, I'll go with Illinois. And then Houston versus Texas A&M, I'm going to go with Houston. I think I said Houston then instead of Houston. I'll go for that in the Texas matchup there. Arizona versus Villanova, I'm going to go with Villanova because why not? Big fan of the Villanova Knicks. Wisconsin versus Arkansas, I'm going to go with Wisconsin. BYU versus Gonzaga, I'm going to back AJ again. Sometimes top prospects underperform in March Madness, but I'm going to say that AJ is not one of those guys because he's got an AP for 200k. And Miami, Florida versus Purdue, I am going to go with Miami. Let's go with a little 6-7 matchup there in the second round. God, I'm so ashamed that I've just done that, to be honest. Michigan versus Georgia in the second round of the Midwest. I'm going to go with Michigan. I'm going to go with Alabama to end the Akron little Cinderella story there. I'm going to go with Tennessee to beat Virginia. I feel like, did I pick a Tennessee somewhere else? Oh, I'm literally coming onto it. But unfortunately, I'm going to say at Tennessee State don't get to have that brilliant Tennessee matchup in the second round because I'm going to go with Kentucky. Back up to East again. I am going to go with Duke to knock off Kansas. I'm going to go with Michigan State. I'm going to finally not be a homer. I'm going to say Michigan State do win that game. Florida versus Vanderbilt. I'm going to go with Florida for that one. I'm going to go with Illinois as my pick for that. And then flip over to the West again. Villanova versus Wisconsin. I'm going to go Villanova. I'm going to go BYU. I'm backing AJ Debonsa to the hilt here. Please don't let me down, AJ. That would be... very, very appreciated. Michigan versus Alabama, I'm going to go with Michigan. And then Tennessee versus Kentucky, I am going to go with UK. So it brings us down to the semis, which I am going to go with Duke to knock off Michigan State. I'm backing Duke kind of all the way, potentially all the way. Let's see. I'm going to say that Illinois knock off Florida. I am going to say... Again, AJ Debonsa backing you to the hilt. I'm going to put you in that championship game. Not in the championship game, in the game before championship game. And then I'm going to go with Michigan to come out of that side of the bracket, which brings me down then to my two championship teams, for which I am going to go 1-seeded Duke and 6-seeded BYU. I'm going to say AJ Debonsa makes it right there to the championship game. Unfortunately, I'm then going to back Duke to finish the bracket. So my score prediction, that's a great question. What do I think the score is going to be? Can I even remember what the championship game is out of? That's quite embarrassing. Do I know what the championship game is out of? Is it a best of 7? I feel like it's a best of 7. I'm going to go 4-1 to Duke. I don't think it will be much of a big close one in that one. I'm hoping it is a 7-game series. I feel like it is. If it's a 5-game, then, I mean, I don't think that can even happen, really. So, we'll see. But, yeah, that is my overall bracket. I'll just exit so you can see there The thing in full, I've got Duke going all the way to the championship game, beating Illinois on the east and south side of the bracket. I've got West and Midwest, BYU and Michigan making it to the finals of that side of the bracket there, and the championship game between Duke and AJ DeBonce's BYU. I've got Duke knocking them off. I may have gone slightly high on the big schools and the big prospects there. I'm thinking that the transfer portal is probably going to lessen the amount of Cinderella stories this year. I've thrown a couple in there for the ones that I can see that are like good basketball schools, but maybe slightly smaller schools in size, coming up against schools that I'm just like, yeah, you know what, the vibe kind of took me there. So a lot of this is based on vibes. I am no college basketball expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I thought it'd be fun to help people in the UK who like basketball understand what this all looks like and what happens here. So yeah, watching it on Disney Plus, I'll be tuning in for the whip round coverage, seeing what games I can latch onto from there. I'm so excited to get stuck back into March Madness college basketball. The NCAA tournament is back, baby. I'm so excited. Let's absolutely get into this and enjoy it. But that has been it from me for the Sport Tee. Thank you for joining me as always. God, I fucking love basketball. There was pain in my eyes while I was drinking that one. It's still so hot.